I'd just like to endorse what Chris has said this morning. Your investment in scouting today makes it possible to sustain critical programs to enrich the lives of young men and women in the Denver metro area. If a scout has not picked up your envelope, please raise your envelope and a scout will collect it. At this time, this is what you've all been waiting for. It is my pleasure to have on the stage with me today, to my right, Rick Dennison, otherwise known as Rico, the offensive coordinator for the Broncos. Wade Phillips, defensive coordinator. To my left, Gary Kubiak, head coach of the Super Bowl champion Broncos. I guess that's not going to get old. You get that for one whole year. And then to my far left, Joe DeCamillis, another local boy does good from Arvada High School. All right, guys, let's start this program with, if I say the word leader, all right, I just said the word leader, who's the first guy you thought of? Gary, you're the head coach, I'll start with you.
First off, Mike, before I answer that question, let me just, on behalf of us as coaches and the Broncos, just say thanks for having us out here today. This is very impressive. Had a chance to spend some time with some scouts this morning. Very impressive young men and women. I was asked a couple of times this morning, was I a scout? I was not. But I look back, and I think my mom and dad were tremendous. I grew up about a block away from a YMCA, and my parents had me involved all the time. And when I look around here today, and I think of the greatest thing we can do for our children is to give them responsibility and get them involved. But if we don't support them, it doesn't matter. And what I see here today, as I sat up here and listened to everyone talk, and you look at the community support and the parental support that's going on with the Boy Scouts of America is very impressive. So thanks for having us, but thanks so much. Okay, what was the question again?
The question was,
leaders.
You should have been the keynote speaker.
Yeah,
that was pretty good. The question was, when I say the word leader, who's the first guy you thought of?
Well, I think of my dad because everything started with him, with our family. I had 3 sisters, and my dad set the bar. I mean, he was the leader of our family. He showed us how to work. We watched him go about his business every day, raise his family, provide for his family, the respect that he treated my mom with. So it all started with my dad, but I think like anything else, we all go off to school or we go off to do our things in life, and then it extends from teachers to coaches to people that we're involved with. But it always started with Dad at home, and he did a tremendous job.
Joe, you, leader.
Kubiak. That's what I say. No,
good answer. You get to stay another year.
That's right. Actually, it's a guy that used to coach here, Dan Reeves. He, as a young man, really instilled a lot of the leadership qualities that hopefully I carry to my players now. He was a big influence in my life, and that's the guy that I would say that I look up to the most in life, really.
Coach Wade?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, how you doing?
Can you understand me?
Welcome.
Yeah, well, I'd have to say my dad also. My dad was my high school coach, my college coach, and then I coached with him and for him for 10 years. And so besides that, he was my dad. So he guided me in the right way.
Rick?
Well, I follow suit with my dad, but I've been around Gary. I think he's obviously a tremendous leader. I'd do anything for him, but my father set the bar for us. He was a tremendous leader. He was president of University of Montana. He did a great job there. So I'd have to go with my dad also.
It's funny. There's a lot of dads out here and people who led the Boy Scouts. Fathers are the #1 influence, I would say. They talk about sports, role models, players, coaches being role models. Nothing beats a father. All you guys here have been in the big game multiple times. Gary, you and Rick won the big game as coaches before, and you've lost some tough ones. Now we're talking big game, we're talking Super Bowl. And Joe and Wade, you've been to the Super Bowl before and experienced defeat. Super Bowl 50 was the first time that you won, if I'm not mistaken. Could you just talk about the feelings? I'm sure the feelings are just profound, both after you lose and also after victory. Rick, let's start with you. Just the feeling you had after you lost the Super Bowl, and contrast that to when you won it here this past week, or past month, or past till February 7th in Santa Clara.
It was sometime in the past.
Yeah.
Well, losing it was such a disappointment because it seemed like it didn't matter what the other 30 teams did. It was you were the only loser that year, you know, when you lost. Winning, however, it's just a culmination of all the hard work that you put in. There's a lot of preparation that goes about, and it's just a pinnacle. It's a big sigh of relief. We got it done. You're excited, but you're excited for the other people that you work with and work for. You know, that's what it's all about. You did your part to get everybody a chance to win.
Wade?
Yeah, I forgot the one we lost, but
That away.
but winning it, just like Rick said, you know, it's a feeling of family, number one, and it's your football family, and then to have your own family there to come out on the field when the game was over is an unbelievable experience.
You did a good job hiring this guy, by the way.
Absolutely.
Gary, you talk about your feelings. Super Bowl.
Well, Mike, you know, I've been very lucky. That was the 7th time I've been to that game. And as a player, we're 0-3. Maybe that's why my jersey wasn't real dirty.
Should have been.
But as a coach, I've been very lucky. I've been a part of 4 wins. But I think the thing that was so gratifying about this past win, and I think the guys up here would tell you the same thing, is we were a team. And you know, when you accomplish the greatest goal in our business of winning a Super Bowl, and you look around the room and everybody was involved. It wasn't about one guy. It wasn't about 2 guys. We won because everybody contributed. And that's what made it so special. And as coaches, we feel like we sat there and we got everything that team had, everything that they gave each other, everything that they had. So I think it'll always be special from that standpoint, being Super Bowl 50. For Mr. Bowl and his family, who, you know, means the world to us. But I think the fact that we felt like we were such a strong football team, you know, internally meant a great deal.
Joe, you were with Dan Reeves with the Atlanta Falcons, who lost to John Elway. John Elway's last game in Miami. You had a kickoff return, Tim Dwight. Kickoff return for a touchdown.
Yeah,
That made the game interesting at the
Thanks
end.
a lot. Really, thanks. I appreciate that.
Oh, were you the special? Oh, no.
Yes, I was. It was a low light.
I'm in the middle of that one.
We should have got a lot more because it didn't help that much.
Talk about this time we have Jordan Norwood, who had the longest punt return in Super Bowl history. So they were talking about team and family, right down to special teams for sure in this one.
The biggest thing that I brought out of this one, I think, in my opinion, is the staff and the players, just like Coop said, everybody was on the same page. There was no egos. I think everybody was playing and coaching for each other, and that's what it's all about. The feeling that when that confetti comes down is unbelievable. So it's something that you'll cherish, and hopefully get back again.
We have a young man here who wants to ask a question. Go ahead and say your name and deliver your question.
My name is Aidan Phillips, and yeah. All right. Coach Kubiak, what is your most vivid memory of Super Bowl 50?
That's a good one. You know what? I got to hug my mom on the 50-yard line. She's 82 years old. She came all the way to San Francisco. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
Right on. Thank you. Scouting teaches so many values and, you know, leadership skills. How much do you think these attributes fit into football? Wade, we'll start with you. You know, the leadership, the values, the character that they teach in scouting, how that kind of crosses over into football team.
It goes directly to it. I think it's all the things that we preach and believe in, number one, but the things that we talk to our players about are all being trustworthy, being loyal, all those things relate directly to working with players and working with our team.
You know, coaching to me, as I observed it, following the team for the last 11 years, I covered baseball before that, it seems like coaching comes down to two primary functions. One is teaching, and the other is decision-making. Teaching, no one watches you do it. Decision-making, we all judge you on how you do it. Which do you enjoy more? Is it the teaching or the decision-making? You have to have a strong inner strength, I would think, to make decisions.
Well, obviously, decisions we make are public, or they're out there on a continuous basis, but I think the reason we all got in the business is because we want to make a difference. Whether you're Coach Troy or Mike, coaching at the college level, us coaching at the pro level, we want to make a difference in these men's lives. And so for each and every day, helping them become the best player they can be. I can't sit here and tell you how many times we deal with players from a personal standpoint, things that they're dealing with in their life, and we get every bit of satisfaction out of helping them through things like that as we do them scoring the winning touchdown or having the winning sack, those type of things. So that's what keeps us going. It's something we really enjoy, and that's what keeps you involved. That's what helps you get over the disappointments, that you keep battling to have the great days like we had this past couple of months ago.
Wade, as you get higher in the coaching ranks, and all you guys here are high up there. You're all coordinators or head coach. So you have coaches below you. As you get higher, is it more about decision-making and less about teaching?
No, I think teaching is first. I mean, we believe we're teachers. I mean, that's what we do. So you don't come out after the game and say, hey, we made too many mistakes. Well, if we say that, then it's usually we means me, the coach.
Yeah.
Made too many mistakes. So we try to teach where they don't make many mistakes, but there's a lot of decisions to be made. A lot of those decisions are their decisions after we've taught them, and we hope they make the right ones.
Joe, there's a lot of dads out here and moms also who coach Little League. They coach the soccer teams. They lead Boy Scout meetings and organize. In many ways, would you say that's the purest form of coaching?
I think the youth level is where it all starts. So, you have to try to get as good at your craft as you can get. So all the clinics and things you can study, it's going to help you. I think teaching is at the core of everything we do.
We have another young man who would like to ask a question. Go ahead, say your name and your question.
I'm Joe, and I would like to ask, what would you say are some similarities between being a scout and a football player?
Rick, you want to start with that one?
Scout and football. Well, I was a Cub Scout also, just like you were. And the thing I remember about being a Cub Scout was you had a task, getting a badge and finishing the task. That was big for me. That was my first recollection as a youth of really finishing. Before that, I don't think I cleaned my room, I didn't do that. That's what football's about, finishing the task, whatever it be, an off-season workout, finishing a drive, finishing a block, finishing a run. That's what I think when I think about that, and accountability. We teach our guys, it's not just you that you're doing that job on the football field. You're accountable to the other guys, the other 10 that are playing with you on offense, or the other 45 that are on the sidelines, and the coaches and the guys in practice. You're accountable for the whole team. That's what I think there's two similarities.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it. All right, let's get to how you coaches got to this lofty position. And when you're the Super Bowl 50 champions and you're at the 40th annual Boy Scout breakfast, I would say this is a lofty position. Find out a little bit, Rick. I've always said if you talked a little bit more, people would know you're one of the smartest men in football. Then again, maybe that's what makes you smart, is you don't talk so much. Well, there's a saying out there, I think it says, I never learned anything while I was talking. So that's how you are. But they say football is not rocket science, but you're about as close to understanding what rocket science is all about. You were engineer, master's in engineering at Colorado State University, and you were in a program that didn't build rockets. This was later in your career, didn't build rockets, but part of a program that helped shoot them down.
Yeah, I got one, about 3 months of internship at Martin Marietta. Worked in the Star Wars project, for those that are old enough to remember that. I didn't do much. I didn't have much clearance, but it was a lot of fun. I was fortunate enough to go to Colorado State, and it was a great career. But I played for Dan, and he used to say, the more you say, the more you have to take back. So I took that to heart.
Wade, you had no choice but to become a football coach. You were born into it. And I'm one of the few people here old enough who remembers the great Bum Phillips as a coach of the Houston Oilers. He not only was a great coach, he was a magnetic personality, a lot of fun. And you have honored him through your Twitter account, Son of Bum. If anybody out there is on Twitter, one of the more entertaining Twitter accounts out there is Son of Bum. I'm going to go through some of the great tweets by Wade during this past year. After defeating the Cleveland Browns in overtime, and who thought the Broncos were going to the Super Bowl after that game, Wade tweeted, "Had some brownies yesterday. They were tough but satisfying in the end." Next game, you beat the Green Bay Packers, and the Broncos did look like Super Bowl champions that night for sure. Wade tweets, and he took a little dig at Aaron Rodgers here. "Chicken parm tastes so good. I like it especially with cheese." The cheeseheads had some fun with that one. Finally, after you beat the Carolina Panthers in Super Bowl 50, you take this nice little poke at Cam Newton. I still remember those gold shoes he was wearing in pregame warm-ups. "A little dab will do you, but too much dab will undo you." And Wade, you've talked about it. You learned it from, you followed your dad's philosophy and belief. It's okay to have fun while you're winning.
Yeah, I didn't mention any of those teams in any of those tweets now, so.
Well, no one understood who you were
no
talking
names,
about there.
So, no, I enjoy coaching. I think the guys know it. And I did get it from my dad that, hey, you can have fun and win too. And that's what we did.
Yeah, you had a chance a couple times in your career to retire, hang them up.
I was retired for a while until Gary brought me back. So.
Yeah, well, but
I didn't want to be, but that's the way it was.
Yeah, why not? Why not step away at some point? Do you want to keep on going? You love it that much?
Well, yeah. When you win a Super Bowl, you better keep going. I mean, that's the fun. That's the most fun, certainly. And yeah, I enjoy the coaching. Enjoy coaching for Gary. It's a special. I've been lucky to be with a lot of great coaches, and his leadership makes me feel good being a coach again.
One of my favorite stories I did when I was with the Denver Post was January 2010. Went down to Dallas and got a chance to meet Joe DeCamillis. Again, a wrestling, almost a state wrestling. He got to the state championship meet. But Joe had a situation. He was coaching for Wade with the Dallas Cowboys, and they were inside the practice bubble down there when a vicious Texas storm blew up and blew the bubble over, and Joe got caught up in the shrapnel. He wound up with a broken vertebrae neck, broken back, yet he never missed a practice for the Cowboys. Later that season, he had an emergency appendectomy, and I think missed 2 practices, and we shouldn't have been surprised. His dad told me his story. He was in a wrestling match for Arvada. His shoulder dislocated. He popped it back in and finished the match. Another time, he did get knocked out of a wrestling match with a concussion, and he woke up on the gurney in the emergency room. First thing he asked for is, "Where's my wrestling shoes?" And so, Joe, what is it about that? I mean, a lot of people call in sick. They don't mind calling in sick a couple times a month. You obviously were raised or have a different belief about showing up to work no matter how tough it is.
I didn't want to be retired. I mean, Wade just talked about it.
Yeah.
I think you have adversity in your life. Everybody's had it up here. Everybody's had it out there. And it's how you recover from that adversity. And I think the more you can embrace that and those tough times, and then go on to actually be in the situation that we were just in a month ago, is what it's all about. So you just keep your head down and keep plugging, and you're very fortunate and excited to be here and excited to be able to be part of a Super Bowl team that won it in my hometown.
When you grew up in Arvada, did you dream about coaching for the Broncos?
Yeah, I kind of went a little bit different. I didn't play in college. I ended up an All-American wrestler at Wyoming, and Dan, was my father-in-law, and I ended up working for our strength coach at the time, and I thought I was going to be a teacher and a coach. I just didn't realize I'd be here 27 years later.
Gary, in many ways, you were born to be a leader. You've been a quarterback all your life, going back through youth, and you've been a head coach now in the NFL for 9 years. But I remember, us guys jabbering in the media room. There was a little talk there that if maybe you were going to wind up a deputy more than the sheriff. And that was a time when you were the longtime assistant with Mike Shanahan. And you were a long time for an offensive coordinator. We remember you had the CU offer at one time, and you turned that down. Was there ever a time when you didn't think you really wanted that big chair?
Oh, I don't know, Mike. First off, I would never be in coaching if it wasn't for my wife. I can tell you that. I've been married 35 years. When I got through playing for the Broncos after 10 years, I remember having a conversation with her about what was next, and I told her I'd love to become a coach. And we had 3 little boys running around at the time, and her answer was, "Don't those guys work a lot of hours? They're not home very much." And she gave me an opportunity to be a coach, and did a great job with our kids. I never got into coaching, thinking this is what I need or this is what I want to accomplish. I got in it to teach and be a part of it and have an effect on, kids' lives. And a bunch of great wins and working for a great organization. I've been very, very fortunate along the way. So I just feel very lucky. I never looked at it that way. I just wanted to contribute, do a good job, and be around great people like these guys I'm sitting up here with today. And so I just feel very fortunate from that standpoint.
There's a bagel vendor down at the 16th Street Mall. He's selling these bagels for 50 cents. And one day a young jogger comes by, drops 50 cents in the bucket, and then keeps on running, doesn't take a bagel. Months go by, every day the same thing. The same jogger comes by, drops 50 cents in the bucket, keeps on jogging. Finally, one day, the jogger comes by, drops in his 2 quarters, but the vendor this time comes out and say, "Hey, buddy." And the jogger turns around and says, "I know what you're going to ask. You want to know why I never take a bagel?" And the vendor says, "No, I raised the prices to $1." The point of that is, some people are never satisfied. You win the Super Bowl in 1 year. All you guys, your first year with the Broncos, 1 year, you win the Super Bowl, and everybody wants to know, how are you going to do it again? And who's your quarterback? That's the one question we get more than anybody else. Gary, this is one for the head coach. Is Colin Kaepernick going to be the quarterback of the Broncos this year?
Well, let's say this. First off, we got a real good team, Mike. And there's so much conversation about what's going on at the quarterback position. Obviously, Peyton retired. We lost a good young player in Brock. We're very proud of Brock, the job that our football team did around him when he had his opportunity to play, so we wish him the best. But we got a really good team. And obviously, we got a young kid in Trevor Siemian that we think a lot of. We signed Mark Sanchez. There hasn't been much said. Mark Sanchez has been in 6 NFL playoff games. He's been to 2 AFC championship games. He's won 4 playoff games on the road. His resume is pretty good. And we're going to surround him with some really good people. We're going to continue to get better there. We're going to add some players. But I have a lot of confidence in a guy down there that pulls the trigger for our organization, and John, and the job he does. And we're working. Matter of fact, that's where I'm heading back to the minute this is over. We're back in draft meetings, and we're going to surround our good team with some more good players. But we're very well coached. These guys do a great job. Our guys play hard, and we expect to be very good again. I promise you that.
But are you going to get Colin
Are we
Kaepernick?
going to get Colin Kaepernick? Well, I'll answer it this way.
Yeah.
We were granted permission to visit with him
Yeah.
by the 49ers. So, and that visit went very good. But, Mike, we're going to stay focused on the guys we have on our team right now.
Right.
He's obviously under contract with another organization, another football team. So we'll stay focused on the players that we have, and we get started here again on April 18th.
Wade, you had.
You know, that's called tampering, you know that, don't you?
No,
Okay.
it's not, because they got permission, right?
Right.
Isn't that understand? I would have cried. What I do, I would have said tampering, but no. Wade, you did have the best defense in the NFL this year, and it got a lot of discussion about whether it was the greatest defense of all time. I have always argued the '85 Bears because they brought so much heat. But one thing that you had in common, those '85 Bears to me seemed like they had 14 guys on the field. They had guys, you couldn't throw against them, you couldn't run it. It just seems like they had guys everywhere. You guys had that look too. I used to always ask you, it looks like you're blitzing 7 and covering with 7, and there's only 11 out there. How did you do that?
Good players.
Yeah. Where do you think your defense ranked in history?
You know, I don't know really. I
That
mean,
whole discussion.
But the teams we played this last year in the playoffs, and this was a team thing. It wasn't just our defense, because special teams played great and the offense held the football. But, you know, to hold the teams at this time, this era where 3 of the top scoring teams in the league averaged 14 points a game in the playoffs, I don't know if that can be done again. We'd like to do it again, but it was pretty special.
You lost 2 good ones. We talked about Malik Jackson and Danny Trevathan. How are you going to replace them?
Well, both those guys, I mean, played great for us, and Danny was our leading tackler, so certainly they're going to be hard to replace, although both those guys were hurt at some time during the year and substituted at some time during the year, so we have guys that have played those positions and played well for us, and then like Koob said, you know, we'll try to replenish with the draft and other players that we sign in free agency, but we're going to be good on defense again, just like our team's going to be.
Rick, you've got basically 4 new offensive linemen this year when you count Sombrilo was hurt, now he might move in. You've got 2 new quarterbacks. You've got a new starting tight end. You've got the most changes on your side of the ball. Some wisecracker would say that's not a bad thing. But talk about how this offense is going to evolve here in 2016.
Well, last year at this time we thought we'd have 4 new starters up front too. You know,
Yeah.
so the guys that we played with moved on and whatnot, and we're changing up, but we'll be okay. We don't have to play till September. We have a lot of good football players, and we can plug them in and find some guys to the draft, and know we have a great defense and we have great special teams, and we'll do our part. We'll, you know, Mark has played a lot of good football, just like Gary said, and we feel real good about Trevor. He can throw the football all over the yard, and we just got to get a consistency thing going.
Yeah, slow heartbeat he has too, Trevor does. Let's go back to leadership, and I thought about this during Peyton Manning's final year here. Coach, I guess this is for you. But to me, it struck me that obedience is a big part of leadership. But a lot of people think that leadership is about someone who sets the rules, but there's also a point in time where they became leaders by following the rules. Now here's Peyton. He has a new system. He learns to adjust to it. I know there was a point where you had to sit him down. I'm sure he wasn't happy about it, but he obeyed you, and he went through the getting healthy. That last game, the final game of his career, he doesn't start, which is the first time in forever. I mean, that took some obedience, and he was rewarded with that because he comes out of the bullpen, he helps you win that game, and he winds up into the Super Bowl. But could you just, that characteristic of obedience is just not about, sometimes leadership is following.
No, Mike, Mike, that tells you exactly what our whole football team was about. Obviously, he was the key leader, for the team and had been for a while. But, you never know how a given season's going to go. Ours was kind of crazy from that standpoint. We played 2 quarterbacks. He goes through an injury. We're trying to get him healthy. We have a young kid who's playing well. We're still continuing to find ways to win, and here we are at the end. Okay, how are we going to do this? But our football team the whole year, responded to adversity, responded to new guys that had to come in. Like Wade said, when we lost players, other guys came in, and we maintained confidence that we could keep going. But when it was all said and done, you go back and look at what he went through, and it's a great example of what our whole team went through. We stayed together, we believed in each other, and for 1 month, and that's what the NFL is about, Mike, for 1 month, can you be the best team in football? And we were.
Right. I tell you, Peyton Manning, if he complains about the coach, if the best player on the team complains about the coach, what are the other players going to do? He never did that. And
No,
so
he's-
everybody,
No, he's absolute class, Mike.
Yeah.
You know that. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a Hall of Fame career as a player, but he's a Hall of Fame person too. And the job that he did, the leadership he provided for our football team. I wish everybody sitting here today or this morning, it is early, right? Could have been in our team meeting the night before we played the Super Bowl. It was special, and it was led by him and his teammate DeMarcus Ware. When we left that room that night, we felt pretty good about our chances.
I talked before about how important talent is, but talent without character doesn't make it. Each of you guys, I'll ask, give me an example of someone who wasn't necessarily the most talented, but had a long, distinguished, or successful career of any type based on his intangibles. Rick?
Well, I'll go with Tommy Nalen. Played for me, offensive lineman, not the biggest guy. If you put him in the weight room or on the track, he wouldn't stand out. But he was tough as nails, and that's what we called him, nails. He would do whatever it took to block his guy, and he did it all for the rest of his teammates. That's his character as far as I'm going to work hard. And the guy played 14 years. In his last year, he was taking notes just like a rookie. Always worked hard. His preparation off the field was tremendous.
Wade?
We had a linebacker one time I had a linebacker that I coached that was kind of an average player, and he just kept playing hard and kept playing hard. And finally, Von Miller got to be a good player.
There's a little bit of talent. There was a number 2
Yeah,
overall
there
pick
was a little
talent there. You did get the most out of him, though. I'll give you that. He did play, whatever you did to him in the playoffs, keep it up. That definitely worked. What do you think of his Dancing with the Stars performance, since you're such a good dancer?
Well, I give him a 7.
Coach Kubiak?
You know what? I'm going to go to 2 guys because they are continue to thrive as men, and I know they're in this community. Now, they're going to get mad at me because they're going to say we were talented too. They were very talented. But Ed McCaffrey and Rod Smith played for me forever here in Denver, and we won 2 Super Bowls with them as players. Both of them, Rod was a free agent that became, in my opinion, a Hall of Fame football player. I think Eddie was drafted, was cut, got let go. I know he came through San Francisco with me and Mike, came to Denver here. Those 2 guys held down the wide receiver position for us for a long, long time. Tremendous people. They got everything out of themselves each and every day, so very proud of them.
Joe?
Well, 2 guys sitting on this stage. I mean, I started as a young man, and I got to see Rico, who, no offense about the talent, but, I mean, he was always prepared. He always worked his tail off. He did everything that his team needed, and I thought he did a great job. And then Koob was a guy that, he came in, and he almost took us to another Super Bowl against Buffalo. Every time that he ever needed to do something for the team, he was there. And I think Coach Reeves always talked about how much he respected him and what a great player he was because of the way he prepared. And that's 2 guys.
Gentlemen, Super Bowl 51 is in Houston this year, right? in Houston. I'm sure Brock Osweiler will be there because one of you guys will leave him tickets at will call, right? We thank you very much. At this time, let's see here. Gary, we present, it's time to present some kind of award here, is it not?
You're doing a great
Kubiak
job,
jersey.
Mike.
The Kubiak jersey, yes.
Coach Kubiak, and just an appreciation for everything you've done today for scouting, your coaches, but more importantly, winning the Super Bowl. We want to give you one of our super trophies. Thank you for everything
Thank you
did.
very
We
much.
appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Thank you very much.
We're also going to send 8 scouts to camp this summer in each of your names, coaches. Thank you very much. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Hey, where's Joe? Joe still here? Joe, you know, they've been giving out these scouts come to camp deals. We ought to just have like a scout day at training camp, huh? We got a big hill over there.